Welcome back to the show, everybody. This is the Upper Tier Podcast. It is Monday evening. It's absolutely sweltering out there, but this is the transfer show. It's 8:30, and we welcome you to the show. As always, joining me, Mr. Kung Fu Panda himself, Dazzler. How are we, Dazzler?
I'm all good, Niall. I am all good, brother.
Good.
Can't believe we're back around at another Monday again.
Another Monday again. But in some respects, the same old stick, isn't it? It's the weirdest transfer window ever, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a little bit like that, all right. But it does feel like these Mondays are just creeping up on us, and every week it's like, Jesus, another Monday like that. But you're right.
Yeah.
We're revisiting and we're touching on a lot of stuff we've touched on for the last maybe 2 or 3 weeks. You know.
I don't think I've ever seen deals to take as long to get over the line, and I understand why they're taking so long. But I don't think I've ever seen such a collection of deals that are so, complex to get across the line. But we'll delve into them in a few minutes anyway. Before we get going, I just want to do a little bit of housekeeping. If you didn't catch our show last Friday, it's up on the network there at the moment. It's a show called The Bionic Biker. It's with a friend of mine, Ed Lindsay, who battled cancer throughout 2011, 2012. And he details his battle against cancer and everything that he went through. And towards the end of this month, he's going to be doing a cycle from Mizenhead, I think, to Mallinhead, I think it is, 630 kilometers. And he's going to do it over 5 days. And all proceeds are going to the Bone Marrow and Leukemia Trust. It's all in the details in the episode there. But if you've ever been affected by cancer, and most families do at some stage or another, be it a cousin or a relative or a friend or something like that, I'm sure we've all experienced it one way or another. If you could spare a few quid, we'd really appreciate it. He's very close to a target for a good cause. He's an absolute belter of a lad. I couldn't ask him more for a friend. He's one of those guys, if you rang him in the middle of the night, he'd do anything for you. But he had a proper battle there that was touch and go for a long time, whether he'd even make it. So we went through, we did about an hour where we spoke about his story and stuff like that, the highs and the lows, culminating with him getting together with his beautiful fiancée Sarah, and they ended up having a beautiful baby in the end. So it's a fantastic story. Check it out if you get a chance. Also coming up this Wednesday, we have this man coming on. A man who probably needs no introduction to football fans. This man, one of the most iconic pictures from the FA Cup off the pitch, I would say. But Wayne is coming on. He's going to tell us his story from starting out as a schoolboy at Southampton to going to Reading to ending up at Sutton. That brilliant FA Cup run that Sutton went on, culminating with this and the result against Arsenal and stuff like that. Well worth checking out. He's an absolute headbanger altogether, but definitely we're coming on. He has some really good insights into goalkeeping and goalkeeping coaching as well, and we're going to be talking to him a lot. We'll obviously talk to him about the situation with this and stuff like that, but that will only make up a kind of a small portion of the show because he has a lot to talk about in terms of football and stuff like that. So we look forward to having Wayne on. It's going to be a great episode, so check it out when you get a chance on Wednesday.
Do you think he'll bring the pasty with him?
He didn't the last time when he was on Morris's show on the Cheapy Productions. So he didn't. But I believe at this stage now he's a connoisseur and he deals in this stuff now.
You can get a Wayne Shaw pasty, can you?
You can get it. I'll update you on the show on Wednesday. But he now has a business in terms of this stuff, food and beverage, I would call it. So yeah, great guy. Came on and did a great interview with Morris. We're going to interview him on the show.
It's an ill wind that doesn't blow some good, isn't it?
Absolutely. Ended up a couple of days later on Good Morning Britain with Piers Morgan and everything and all, you know what I mean? So sometimes there's no such thing as bad exposure, is there? Let's begin. Let's talk about
That's like transfers. A disease having to sit next to Piers Morgan, isn't it?
I wouldn't, I'd say it's kind of, you know something, I'd say behind the scenes it's okay. I'd say in front of the camera it could be quite uncomfortable.
Got a KCA and Dunphy's going on.
But you're always going to hit you with at least one swerve ball, isn't he?
Controversial.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh yeah, and everything that's agreed off camera will just be, swept under the carpet as soon as you go live. So John, tell us about that affair you had in 1984. What?
Yeah.
What the? You know?
Yeah,
Listen.
you would think you'd bring him on, and the Poigate thing would only be like a side number, really, on it, that kind of way.
Yeah.
Um, let's begin. This man here and Rubens Loftus-Cheek haven't made the US preseason tour for Chelsea due to
Mm-hmm.
COVID vaccination status. Um, what you thinking on this? Do you reckon this might be down to COVID vaccination status, or do you reckon there could be a few deals in the offing? We know Ruben Loftus-Cheek has been mentioned potentially with moving away and stuff like that, and linked with a couple of moves. What you thinking on this? Purely down to COVID vaccination status?
Yeah, I would think so. I don't think there's a need to, spoof around things like this. And I think it wasn't necessarily the club that came out first to mention it, was it? So I would say it's that's exactly what it says in the tin, let's say. And I'd say we'll probably see a little bit more of it as more teams start to head away, where guys are sent home or don't have the right vaccines or haven't had the right jabs or whatever, and they're told, unfortunately, the country you're coming into won't accept you, so toddle off back there to Cobham and do a little bit of work on your own.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's stick with Chelsea for a minute. Let's talk about these two men. They seem to be working in tandem together. But what you're making of it? They also seem to be maybe have slightly different ideas on where they want Chelsea to go in terms of personnel, let's say. Bowley seems to be jet setting around the world, kind of like a rock star trying to land some big names and make big connections in the world of football, where Tuchel is probably more specific in what he wants. We know in recent days they've been linked to Neymar, Ronaldo, De Ligt, to name but a few. What you thinking on
Of
Chelsea?
those
And
three, just of those three, how many of them three players do you think they'll sign?
I think, depending on how, well, I don't know. The Ronaldo one is a different one that we probably have to talk about because,
Well,
um,
just offhand, 1, 2, or 3 of the three lads we mentioned.
I'd say possibly one, and the nearest to them is probably Ronaldo.
Okay, so I think 0. I don't think they'll sign any of them three lads.
That's where I'm leaning. But if I had to pick, say,
Yeah,
one, I think if that's the only one, I think they have a chance. It sounds like De Ligt wants to go to Bayern. I know Man City have started talking to him as well now, but I think he has his heart set on Bayern. But the problem as well, I heard today when I was looking at it as well, is apparently Man City have made an inquiry about Koundé as well. So maybe by Chelsea flopping around maybe some of their um, targets, they're
yeah.
moving them away and stuff like that. So I'm not too sure what way that's going to go. But it looks like they've landed Raheem Sterling anyway, who I think is a very good signing.
I think Sterling's a great
47.
signing, but I think, and I spoke about this, I don't know about Chelsea at the minute, I wouldn't say they're in turmoil, but I certainly wouldn't say they were in a great place right now. Obviously,
The,
the addition
the,
of Sterling is a great addition,
yeah,
but if you look at what's left the club as well, the Lukakus, the Rudigers, the Christensens, you're probably looking at an Azpilicueta and a Marcus
Alonso.
Alonso, big
Mm.
numbers, big
And
numbers to leave the
potentially, and
club.
Ziyech as well, actually.
Potentially a
Potentially.
Ziyech as well. They've talked
Yeah.
about using Werner as a make way at times. You're talking about Loftus-Cheek and possibly Kante. Like, I mean, who's playing for Chelsea this year? Do we know? Are they bringing a whole host of lads up from the youth squad? What's the, because at the minute, like the Chelsea squad it's a strange makeup if you ask me. It's very, very
Yeah, well,
unbalanced.
it's interesting there where you talk about youth as well, because, I mean, the boy Broja has been linked with a move away. Conor
Yeah,
Gallagher has been linked with a move away as well. And I would have thought that would be two they would be certainly hanging on to.
the
That I
worst
was
piece of
surprised at.
business, the absolute worst piece of business Chelsea could do this summer for me is allow the boy Broja out on loan again. I just think he's like a ready-made replacement for Lukaku, but he does an awful lot of stuff that maybe Lukaku wasn't doing. The closing, the pressing, the work rate, the having a first touch,
Desire.
the
Desire.
desire, hunger,
Yeah.
I think if you're talking about the boy Broja, and you're going to flank him with a Rafinha and a Raheem Sterling. Like, unbelievable. Really unbelievable. You know?
Yeah.
Um,
Do you think
I,
do you think they have a plan? Like what do you think the plan is? In terms of Chelsea, I mean, we see Bowley. Bowley seems to want to sort of like, he seems to be jumping on the next big cool name, whereas I'm sure Thomas Tuchel probably has a plan of players that he wants, and I'm just wondering in Thomas Tuchel's list, do you see the likes of a Ronaldo and a Neymar and a De Ligt? Now De Ligt is probably one definitely I would think that would fit in there and one that they would want. Um, but I'm not
yeah,
sure
I
on the
know. I
others,
understand what you're saying. Like, I think there's a lot of stuff like that. I think Bowley's looking for a return on his investment, isn't he? When you're talking about the likes of Ronaldo and a Neymar, because
Mm,
obviously there's a certain guarantee with them from a financial point of view, from with jersey sales and stuff like that, and bums on seats, making sure that the bridge is full every week, and you got season ticket holders there, and that's much easier to do with a Neymar or a Ronaldo. I think they spend a lot of money on the likes of um, hospitality at Chelsea, and I think you sell a lot of that based on the fact you have a Neymar or a Ronaldo there. So I think from that point of view, it's really clever business. Are either of the lads somebody Thomas Tuchel would like in their immediate starting 11? I'm not so sure. Um, I know Tuchel has worked with Neymar in the past. I think anybody that works with Neymar finds it difficult to work with Neymar. But again, I don't know whether a lot of that is down to the bad name Neymar's gotten himself, or if it's a legitimate, he's a pain in the ass. We've seen some of the things he's done. Obviously he doesn't like to play football on his sister's birthday at all, does he? He gets himself suspended or injured every year. Like
mm.
stuff like that's going to annoy you as a manager, isn't it? And especially as an owner.
Yeah, I don't think it's just down to the manager. I think there's a consistency to his nonsense, isn't there?
There is, yeah, absolutely, yeah, absolutely. I think when you're talking about a guy at that level, and when you talk about the exposure he brings to your club, I think there's a certain amount of it that you've got to write off and go, I know signing this guy is going to mean it's a circus,
Mm,
but I'm going to sign him anyway because I feel like his profile brings something to this club. And I think at times, owners get involved there and they'll make deals happen without even managers' consent, let's say, just because the deal is right for the club rather than the actual team, you know, which
yeah,
is
I know what you
nuts.
mean.
But I think it happens.
Morris is in the chat again tonight. Welcome on board, Morris. If you haven't already, head over and check out GP Productions podcast. He's dropping some great content over there at the moment. Morris
Absolutely.
reckons there's going to be a clash here down the line with these two. You would think. What you thinking on that, Darren? Do you think you could see that potentially happening?
Yeah, I think Tuchel's there to win trophies and to prove, he's a manager of a certain level, because I think he's got a lot to prove after the PSG gig. Whereas I think Bowley is about, it's going to be very similar to a lot of American owners, as we said. It's going to be dividends, and it's going to be, getting money out of the club at certain times, and, creating this brand Chelsea. And I think you're going to see more sponsorship on arm sleeves and, naming rights of stadiums and stuff like that. And I just think that's inevitable with these guys coming in, and when they're putting that much money up. Um, yeah, I think that's bound to happen.
Yeah. Two boys that are linked with moves away. Obviously, Conor Gallagher. No one has to ask us how big of fans we are of Conor Gallagher. If you go back and look at all last season, I think we spoke about this boy
Yeah,
literally every Monday matchup of last season. He was absolutely outstanding at Crystal
yeah,
Palace. He's been linked with a move away to Aston Villa, um, which I think for a lad like him, I think that would be a great move, because when I look at him, I see some of the attributes that Stevie G had. I could
100%.
see bits of his play and stuff like that, and
Yeah,
I
that
think if he did,
that kind
I think if
of
he, yeah,
that spiteful side, that I don't mind putting a foot in and kicking me granny up the arse if I have to, if it means I win
yeah,
a ball and I get what I want to get out of it. I think he likes to break on with the ball like that at his feet. He's creative.
mm,
He has an eye for goal. I think when you match him up like that against Stevie, I think there's a lot he could learn from Stevie. And I think from a career directional point of view, that could be a very, very clever move from Conor Gallagher. He's just finished playing under Patrick Vieira. He goes and plays under Steven Gerrard. What's he going to learn from two of the best Premier League midfielders of all time?
Yeah, it's
He's
a
going to learn
serious
how to be a better
combination, isn't
player.
it? Yeah.
Absolutely. And then in 18 months' time, then you're looking at him being, the England international, playing every single game in the middle of that park and doing the same for more than likely a top four side in the country.
Yeah, I can't see him. Could you see him wanting to go back to Chelsea there to play second fiddle to the three boys? I couldn't see that.
Listen,
Could you?
it depends what Tuchel's told him. Like, if Tuchel says, listen, you're going to get a spin, and it's
True.
different. But I mean, like, you've got Jorginho, you've got Kante, and you got Kovacic. Now, to be honest, if you ask me and you said, listen, I want you to go and pick the Chelsea midfield for next season, Kovacic and Gallagher all day long.
Yeah, you've
Absolutely
said that before. Yeah,
all
absolutely.
day long. There's nothing you don't have in there. There's strength, there's pace, there's creativity, there's some balance that, Kovacic, he's a clever player. He'll screen that back four. Gallagher will get in the front foot. They'll swap it over. I think they'd be awesome in there together. I think as a midfield pairing, there's very few in the league that would touch Gallagher and Kovacic for me, I have to say.
Yeah, and they kind of represent that powerful midfield that Chelsea had
Yeah,
so much success on over the years as well, don't they? Between the
absolutely.
balance of the two of them and stuff like that, and then if you have the flair of a Kante in there as well, it's a
Well,
heck
I
of a
mean,
midfield,
if they're gonna go with the 3-5-2, or the 5-3-2, whichever way you look at it, they're going wing backs. You're talking Chilwell and Reece James. You're talking three centre backs, two in front and two in the middle, the Gallagher and Kovacic, and the three up front, the Rafinha, the Sterling, and the striker. That's awesome. That is
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
Filling in the blanks, obviously. Like, you've got your two, your front three, Sterling and Rafinha. You've got your two in midfield, Gallagher and Kovacic. You got Chilwell and Reece James. You've got Mendy. You've got Thiago Silva. Yeah, you're missing a striker and a couple of centre backs, but I mean, there's a lot there.
Yeah, and in a tough transfer window, it's ready made for that decision, isn't it? Because it's
Should
really
be
tough at the moment to land targets,
absolutely.
regardless of money, because everyone seems to have money to throw around, but not everyone is landing targets.
I gotta
Morris
say
is
though,
back.
I do feel like a lot of the clubs in the bottom half of the league seem to be getting the business done a little easier than the top half of the league. I don't know whether that's a lean towards the fact that a lot of clubs, outside of the league are thinking anything in the top half of that Premier League has money, and we need to sit on this as long as we can to get every single red cent out of it. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. Morris is back in the comments. He reckons Tuchel is a cup manager.
I think that's a little bit harsh. I think it's a little bit harsh. But what I will say is, with the Chelsea squad he has at the minute, I don't think he could do anything else, could he?
Yeah. It needs, and it was identified early on that it needs a bit of work, as you said at the top of the show there, with the players that has come out and the
Yeah,
players that are potentially coming in, and again, we're seeing a lot of this across the Premier League at the moment, where people are not actually landing their targets and they're having to adjust their thinking and stuff like that. And as you said as well, with the changes being made internally as well, it doesn't readily lend itself to that change, that dynamic so quick in the market if you haven't got a bit of that experience there. You know what I mean? It's, I'd imagine someone like Todd Bowley, his background in US sports and stuff like that, he's used to going in and going, right, I'll take him, and gets them. It's
yeah,
very, very different when you come into the world of football, and especially European football, where you're trying to sign big stars, and trying to lift the status of the club, if you like, and bring it back up again and stuff like that. So yeah, but it's definitely an interesting one, and I suppose there's a little bit of argument there for that, but certainly probably a little bit harsh, I would say. Broja is the same. Broja is potentially linked with Everton. Um, I don't see that. Could you see that being the move?
um, I think it's a better move for Broja than it is Everton. They've got a Calvert Lewin. Like, Broja's going to play that centre forward role. Now, listen, the only thing I will say about Calvert Lewin is we know he's a little bit injury prone, and when he's out of the team, maybe Everton want to be able to turn to a Broja and stuff like that, knowing that they can do it on loan and it's not going to cost them the earth. So I mean, they could absolutely get away with that. They could have, Calvert Lewin starting the games and Broja off the bench, or vice versa if the other one wasn't fit and whatever like that,
Yeah. This guy here has been linked to Chelsea as well, because the talk is that the lid has kind of basically decided on Bayern Munich.
Yeah,
And that it's in Bayern Munich's hands whether they want him or not, whether they're going to structure the deal and pony up what it's going to take to get him there, but certainly he wants to go there. So
yeah,
Chelsea, I believe, have kind of switched now and they're looking at this boy up Meccano.
yeah.
And we had a nice exchange the other day on our WhatsApp group about this guy in terms of his partner previously was Konate.
Yeah.
And we were making the point that we think Liverpool got the better player. What's your
I
thoughts?
listen, and I said this before. I don't have a horse in this race, right? Because neither of them play for my club, so it doesn't really affect me slightly. One thing I will say is I've seen both of these guys play at Old Trafford. I've seen the boy Upamecano play for Leipzig, and United absolutely dominated, and made him look very, very sheepish. And I would say possibly did a little bit of damage to where he was going to end up, because for a while it looked like he was going to go really big. Now, listen, he ended up at Bayern. Bayern are a huge club. I'm not playing that down at all. But I think there was a lot interested in him at one stage, and maybe went through that Champions League phase with Leipzig. They got pumped a couple of times, and I think maybe it's shown up a few little errors, Whereas I've seen, again, Konate up front and live, and I couldn't have been any more impressed. Like, I was at the Liverpool United game in Old Trafford in November. Liverpool beat United 5-0. Let's just mention that again if we haven't. Liverpool beat United 5-0. I came home. You spoke about Salah. You spoke about Trent. And you spoke about some of the other attacking players. And I told you the best player on the pitch to a man was the boy Konate. And I couldn't have been more impressed with him. How physically he is like, he's built for the Premier
Monster.
League. He's a monster. He's got great height. He's got a big pair of shoulders on him. He's got a nice turn of pace. He's so calm and cool with the ball at his feet. He's very relaxed. He exudes confidence. And I just thought he was immense. Like, it was this kid's first real test in a Liverpool jersey, going away to Old Trafford. And you just thought, maybe we can get at this guy. Boy, was I wrong. And having seen both of them kind of up front like that, I would have said Liverpool absolutely got the better end of the deal.
And this lad here has been linked to Premier League clubs now for a good few windows, hasn't he? He was linked to yourselves at one stage heavily, wasn't he?
He was heavily linked to us before he went
Yeah.
to Bayern. And we did him up like a kipper in the Champions League group. And it looked like then maybe United backed off and went, ooh, we weren't necessarily playing unbelievable football at the time. And we gave him a good hiding. And I don't know whether that harmed him a little bit, because maybe the United lads thought we'll get to have the look at this guy up close and personal and really kind of scout in close range. And it didn't work out for the boy, So, yeah, listen, he's a good centre-back. He absolutely is a good centre-back. Would he be an improvement on some of what Chelsea have at the minute? 100%, absolutely. But if I've a choice of Upamecano or Konate, me personally, I'm taking Konate.
Yeah. I suppose I have to apologise a bit if a lot of the show does be taken up at times by Chelsea and Man United. But I mean, you two clubs at the moment probably have the most business to get resolved, don't you, in this transfer window, in terms of the Premier League?
100%. Absolutely. Yeah. Our
Let's
two squads are the biggest squads that are in transition, let's say.
Yeah. Let's have a quick chat about this again. It seems like we talk about it weekly. I mean, you probably talk about it daily. What's your thinking on this at the moment? Every day or every couple of days, something else seems to come out. This must be so frustrating for Manchester United, and especially that man Eric Ten Hag. I mean, it's just, as we peel back this onion of Barcelona, it gets darker and darker and darker as you get to the centre, doesn't it? They owe money out everywhere.
Yeah.
Apparently, they owe something in the region, I read today, of 400 or 500 million in back wages to players total. which is absolutely crazy. Some of the deals that they were doing and the contracts that were signed, absolutely madness. It sounds like on the basis of this, if I've read it right, that there is an agreement there in terms of the fee. I would assume that personal terms with Frankie De Jong are in place,
Yeah,
but there seems to be a hold up over this finance in terms of who's going to pick up his back wage bill or whatever it is. That 19 or 20 million, I think it is. And United are kind of waiting for Barcelona to buckle because they know Barcelona kind of have to unload some players. And he seems to be the one where they can probably do the best business because they're not getting rid of Pedri, they're not getting rid of Gavi or these guys who might do a
yeah,
little bit better, but they
yeah.
don't have an intention to sell them. So Frankie seems to be the guy. As you've heard more and more unfolding over the last couple of days, what's your feeling on it? Do you feel he's going to be a Man United player come season time and stuff like that, or what are you thinking?
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. This is a done deal on all but paper, you know.
Mm,
And this deal has been agreed at club level, and this deal has been agreed, between Ten Hag and De Jong. Um, I believe Ten Hag has told them, "You're gonna come and conduct my orchestra." That's
yeah.
that's what's been said.
Mm,
There's phone calls on the daily. I saw maybe 2-3 hours ago, Richard Arnold and John Murta arrived in Barcelona today. And obviously there's been another bid tabled from Barcelona for Rafinha,
yeah.
and they're saying that the Rafinha deal again can't go ahead without De Jong. Um, so I think I'll be surprised, you know, if he hasn't at least boarded the plane before Friday.
Yeah.
I think he'll be. I think it's medical time before Friday. I know we've got Christian Eriksen's medical this week, and they're
Yeah.
trying to pencil in a day for that. I believe
Mm.
we'll probably try and get Eriksen and De Jong in for medicals together, and possibly even get the pair of them out and get them over to the preseason tour as a duo, rather than sending one and 4 or 5 days later sending another. You know, I expect both of these deals to be all but concluded come Friday.
Is this a situation, this the young one? I mean, the Ericsson one I understand because I'd imagine his medical has to be quite rigorous,
Yeah,
more so than your typical standard player. And I
yeah,
know also as well, I think United have to speak to their insurance underwriters as well because
yeah,
obviously it has a knock-on effect on that as well. So I can understand the Ericsson one taking a little bit more time. And to be honest, I don't think that's a bad thing at all. I think that's a really good thing. Um, but
and
I
I
think
think
he
it's as good for Christian Eriksen as it is anyone.
both parties,
Yeah,
absolutely. You have to be absolutely sure because I know it's one thing, and no disrespect to Brentford, it's one thing going into Brentford and they took a leap on him and stuff like that and brought him in and stuff like that. But the pressure of playing for Brentford and the pressure of playing for Man United are two very different things.
yeah,
In terms of exposure, in terms of the press, in terms of handling communication, everything. It's just different level. And you know yourself that stress can ratchet up, and especially at a time if the club potentially wasn't doing well or something like that, and there's a lot of internal stuff going on and all, that's not a good recipe for a guy like Christian Eriksen. So they have to make sure that they cross all that and do it right. And of course, we want it to work out well for him because we're big fans of him. But with this De Jong deal, is this a case where you give it till the end of this week and then you tell Barca to do one and you change your tact? Or are you just going to stick with it till the 1st of September or whatever it is, till it has to happen if this is the way it drags on? If the two boys are heading over there today, surely to God they want it. Look, this is it, guys. Are we doing it? Are we not doing it? You want to bring in Rafinha. We want to bring in De Jong. Are we doing this deal or are we not doing this deal? Because it must be so frustrating for Eric
yeah.
Ten Hag. He's gone off on the
I'd say
season.
there's I'd say there's an element of that. I'd say the two lads have landed there, and the conversation's now going to be had. Lads, we've had enough of this bullshit. The deal
Mm,
happens and it goes ahead because, as you say, now Frankie's been on holiday up until Sunday, so he only actually made it back to Barcelona yesterday. I don't know whether you've seen he's just got engaged to his girlfriend and stuff like
Saying
that.
that, yeah, saying
They
that, yeah,
did that over in the States and stuff like that. So he wasn't
yeah.
due back anyway. So he's only due back
Mm.
kind of yesterday, back in training maybe today. I don't know
Yeah,
whether he turned up for training today, whether he's been given the time off until the deal is sorted. But a lot of that with De Jong away, you can agree a certain amount. But if he's not back, what's the point? You know, like if
yeah. Well,
he had
I
plans and he
suppose
was
the
on his
other side
holidays
of
and
that
whatever.
is, I mean, yeah, but I suppose the other side of that as well is his agent will be fully conversing with him all the time, regardless of whether he's away or not. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. So I
This is a
mean, that's the
huge
thing.
step in his career.
This contract is it's been agreed. You know, it's
Yeah,
now time to push the button on it, and that's why maybe you see Murta and Arnold, you know, heading over there to say, okay, lads, you know, we appreciate the situation you're in from a financial point of view.
mm.
We appreciate you're trying to do the best for the club, and you know you're trying to put the best foot forward and all. But this is the stage where we need to call this and get it moving, because I think Ten Hag wants him for the first day of the season, and I don't think you
Mm.
get him for the first day of the season if you don't make that deal happen in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely. Yeah, and it's just one of those. When I looked at it today, the battle is not really between United and Barca. It's an internal battle between De Jong and Barcelona that needs to be sorted out,
absolutely.
and then it's going to flow fairly seamlessly. You know what I mean?
And, and
It's
and
just
there's
so
a lot of
frustrating.
United fans that were like, you know, why are we entering into a deal like this? And why are we going after these kind of targets? Well, the managers identified this guy as he said, you know, the guy he wants to conduct the orchestra. It just so
Yeah,
happens that the club he plays for are in turmoil. It's not something United haven't gone out and looked to see, okay, which deal can we do to get, you know, to get the maximum amount of shithousery involved in. Like, that's not happening. This guy is obviously played under Eric Ten Hag. Ten Hag, he left Ajax to go to Barcelona. Ten Hag comes to a club like United, sees he can get the likes of a Frankie de Jong back onto his team. Says, you know what, this is the guy I want. I've worked with him before. I know what he can do. I know what he can bring to a team. I want him. Let's go and make it happen. And it just so happens that this all happens at the exact same time. And it's completely coincidental that the shit hits the fan at Barca. And that's
yeah,
just, you know what I mean? And you've just got to suck that up at times and go, all right, you know, I'm dealing with someone. I know the deal isn't going to be straightforward, but being patient and waiting and making sure that I get the deal done will land me in a much better position. Don't tell me for 1 minute we're not a way better squad with Frankie de Jong in it than we are without him.
oh, 100%, 100%.
You know? So then
No football fan's going to tell you that. Absolutely.
but there so then does that matter whether it's the 7th of July or the 7th of August? What's the difference? In
Well,
in it
well, I
Listen,
suppose the
I get
difference
in an
is,
ideal world. I
yeah,
get that. But
yeah.
we know we don't live in an ideal world.
No, but you would ideally you would like him to bed in, and like, I mean, obviously he knows Eric's style and stuff like that, so he should be
Yeah,
able to settle in there. But
absolutely.
again, getting to know your teammates and stuff like that, if it's the 7th of August, you know what I mean. You might not really get him pumping until the 7th of September. You know what I mean, and at that stage you're a month into the season. You know, and that's where the concern would be. But
Yeah,
I
but
really
again,
think
I still think you're looking at him going, I still have him. He's mine. I
oh,
get him.
I said, I'm
You
not
know?
saying you'd refuse him,
No, 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 no,
whichever
no, no.
date it is, but I'm saying
Yeah,
in terms of the overall picture of Man United's situation, where they can't afford to lose ground at whatever their projected target is for the season that early, you know. So that's where I'm really coming from. Morris is back in the comments here, and Mark has joined as well. Mark Rennan. Morris is saying he can't believe Maguire is the captain this season. That's a sore one for a lot of the fans. Any quick comment on that? I think we'll talk about it more on Thursday on our Thursday tier show. But what's your initial thoughts on it briefly?
yeah. So I know there's a lot of fans that are really, really pissed off at it and annoyed with it, you know? Um, and I get that to a degree. Something I'd say, and you know, this is a difficult thing to do. Maybe Ten Hag is doing what a good manager should do. And maybe rather than tearing his players down, he's going to try and build them back up again. Because we know United are devoid of any sort of confidence at the minute. And there's so many players in that squad that look like they need the arm around the shoulder and the kick up the arse at the same time, you know? And maybe he's given, you know, Maguire the foot up the hole in training, but maybe he's giving them the arm around the shoulder in public and saying, I'm backing you. I'm putting my faith in you. Go and show me that what I did was right and prove it to me. You know, and
Yeah,
and listen, I do understand that there's fans pissed off at it and stuff like that. But the manager's gone in and he's looked at what he has. He's looked at what's around. And if he feels like the best leader we have at Manchester United is Harry Maguire, then I'm all right with that because he's the manager and he calls the shots.
Yeah, I'll get more of your thoughts on that on Thursday because I think there's a good conversation to be had around that, in terms of psychology and stuff like that we might look at. Yeah, great point, Morris. No bother at all. Mark's here. Evening, Mark. Good to have you on
Hey,
board.
Marky.
Mark says he's only joined, but were we talking about the money that the Young was owed? We had mentioned it, Mark. It's 19 million or something like that in back wages, and a couple of bonuses as well and stuff like that. So yeah, we mentioned it all right, and we kind of feel, Darren, that's really the stickler, isn't it, on this getting going? He wants his 19 million.
Got to be honest, Niall. If somebody owed me a chunk of change like that, and they said, "Listen, we're going to send you down the road to work in the other place, and we'll fix you up whenever," I'd say, "You're all right. I'll stay here. You fix me up, thanks."
And the fact that he did it, yeah, and the fact that he did it in good faith to help out the club at a time when the club needed it as well. So this is kind of shithousery the other way, isn't it? Really, from the club, they should honour it if they agree.
This is Barca all over, and they're still not covering themselves in glory at all. You know.
Yeah, Mark's back on again. Only joined now, but maybe that was that one already. Yeah, I got that one. Yep, that's that then. That's that covered. I want to move on to Danjuma, a man that we spoke about, a guy that we really respect a lot and stuff like that, who we think is a fabulous player. He was linked last week. We spoke about West Ham. Yeah. But apparently a report has come out that he is uninterested in joining West Ham. What you thinking on this guy? He's we'd love to see him in the Premier League, wouldn't we? Where could you see him potentially ending up?
So very, very surprised, I have to say, that Eddie Howe hasn't gone looking at this kid. Obviously Newcastle have the money available, the finance there, and obviously Eddie worked with him at Bournemouth. Eddie brought him into Bournemouth originally, and then obviously he left for Villarreal and stuff like that, in a good deal for Bournemouth, by the way. But I think he's a smashing footballer. I am very, very surprised that Newcastle haven't gone in from yet. I would have loved to see United go in for him. I think he's a huge, huge attribute to any team. I think he could work at Chelsea. I think he could work at Arsenal. You know, I think he could do huge. I could see the kid at Man City. I really could, as one of those wide players. You know, City like playing with those wide players. They've got a Grealish, or they've got a Mahrez, and obviously they've let a Jesus go and stuff like that. You know, Sterling. I could see the boy, and a Sterling. I could see the boy Danjuma taking that sort of a place. He's a very good footballer. He's great with the ball at his feet, creates a lot of space. You know, he's direct, has an eye for goal. You know, he's got great vision and stuff to pick a pass. I really like the kid. Really, really like him. I am absolutely flabbergasted. And listen, we're still very early, but I'm absolutely flabbergasted that himself and the boy Pau Torres aren't out the door of Villarreal yet and aren't at a Premier League club.
And it's surprising as well, insofar as in a transfer window so far where we've seen there's not amazing value out there.
No.
This guy is pitched at 36, but more than likely about 40.
Yeah, he's somewhere between 35 and 40 is the buyout clause.
And I think at the moment, in the market that we're in at the moment, I think to me that represents some of the best value for money that I've seen so far in terms of potential deals.
Absolutely. And if you're a Thomas Tuchel, and let's say you want to take out somebody like Lukaku and you want to press a little bit further up the pitch, and you're taking in a Rafinha's playing your right, and maybe you're taking in a Raheem Sterling, who you know you can play a false nine or through the middle with that kind of pace. This guy would work really, really well on your left-hand side. And Villarreal could also solve part of your issue in centre-back with Pau Torres. You could do some sort of a deal, 70 to 80 million, and take both of these lads in. And how much of a better position would Chelsea be in with Danjuma and with Pau Torres for between 70 and 80 million? It's a no-brainer. An absolute no-brainer. He's a left-sided centre-back as well. There's not lots of them floating around.
Yep, spot on. Let's talk about this guy. This is a guy we spoke about a bit on the shows back last season as well, Kyle Walker-Peters. Um, had a very good kind of second half to the season, I thought, down there at Southampton. But he's been linked with a move to Everton.
I hadn't
Um,
heard this, but he absolutely stood up and was counted for Southampton. Certainly, as you say, the second half of the season, Spurs let him go. Kind of looked like he wasn't going to get a look in at Spurs. I don't know if I'm honest. He looks like he's nailed on to be an Antonio Conte kind of a player, but he left before Conte came in. Managed to get himself involved in the England reckoning towards the end of the season and stuff like that. Pretty sure he made his England debut as well.
yeah,
In one
you're
of the
right.
friendlies, maybe even in the Nations League. But he's a quality. Kid's got great technique. He's quite attacking. He's got bags of pace. He gets up and down that line really, really well. He's dogged in the one-on-one situation. I like him as a footballer, I gotta say. I
Yeah,
think he's a very, very decent right back or right wing back, as is
yeah,
probably his preferred position, you know. But I would say if Everton get a guy like that in, it'd be great business. However, the one thing I will say about that, Everton already have a Seamus Coleman, and they've just spent big money on the boy Nathan Patterson from Rangers, who will end up being the most expensive export from Scottish football. So I don't know whether they're going to go back and go for another right back. That's 3 right backs. That's a lot.
yeah. Mark was saying that he reckons the Spurs have a sell-on clause and a first refusal on him.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. But
Mm,
listen, I know Spurs are heavily linked to the boy Jed Spence at
yeah,
Nottingham Forest. Nottingham Forest today complete a £70.5 million move for Neco Williams from Liverpool.
brilliant business for both clubs and the kid.
Excellent business for both clubs. That would tell me they're ready to allow the boy Spence to leave. I would say, with Spence, they're not going to listen. Neco Williams isn't going to sit in the bench behind Spence, and Spence isn't going to sit on the line behind Neco Williams. So that
Yeah,
would tell me he's going to go, which means more than likely Spence is heading to Spurs.
Spurs. Yeah, I read today that they're in advanced talks. Anyway, he's been
Yeah,
heavily linked with them and stuff like that.
yeah,
Speaking of Spurs, again, fantastic business.
yeah. Clement Longley, very
Yeah,
good, very good. French international, good centre back, solid. You pop him in next to a Christian Romero and
mm,
possibly one other, and you really solidify that back four. You got Basuma in front, you got Perisic and Spence on the wings. You've got bags of talent up front. Like Conte, he's putting together a really good squad there at Spurs. I expect huge, huge things from Spurs this season. Huge.
yeah, he's doing unbelievable business. Steven Bergwijn has moved on as well, and the talk is that they've been linked with this man off Barcelona as well, which wouldn't surprise me if they were moving out another player. Memphis coming in potentially to Spurs. That's who they've been looking at as a replacement for
I'm
Bergwijn.
I'm gonna make a call on this. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm gonna make a call on this, and I'm gonna say there's no way, absolutely no way, Antonio Conte goes near Memphis Depay. No chance whatsoever.
okay. Clarify your point. Give me a bit more meat on that bone.
What would you like?
Just
How?
throw it at me.
Well, listen, he's not an Antonio Conte player, is he? I mean, he's not, the lad's not there for work rate. He's not there for endeavor. He's not there for desire. He's not there for hunger. He's there for himself. He's extremely egotistical, this lad. I happened to be at a table with this lad before in a restaurant in Manchester. Um, and I was at the table, and himself was at the table with his agent. Peter Crouch was at the table with Abby, and Graham Souness and his driver Terry were at the table. And this guy sat there in the restaurant with his sunglasses on and a baseball cap in the restaurant for the whole time we ate. And Graham Souness sat and looked at him and went, "What's wrong with this guy? This guy is right up there. Like, he's absolutely tapped. proper tap, like,
Yeah.
and he's not a guy Antonio Conte is going to want to bring in to a Spurs squad that he's really, really building well and upset
Yeah.
and ruffle feathers. Doesn't happen. Not a chance.
Yeah. Mark's back in the comments. Everyone is giving Spurs massive credit in the transfer window, but their signings don't blow me away. I think where I'm coming from with that, Mark, and I know Darren probably feels the same. Darren, you come in a second as well. My thinking is it's not necessarily the individual ones that he's signing. I think it's collectively the jigsaw or the picture that he's putting together looks really, really impressive. Not necessarily that it's this guy or that guy or that guy. It's when you put them all together on the pitch and show the options and stuff that he has. I think it looks really impressive.
Yeah, I would say two things. The first thing I would say is, yeah, he's a guy, Conte, who knows what he wants. So he obviously didn't like the wingbacks. He's got Perisic. He's probably going to get benched. There's two problems looked at in Spurs. He maybe thought they were a little bit soft in the midfield. He's bought Basuma. He wanted another option to go up front. He's got Richarlison. He's got a backup keeper from behind Fraser Foster, and he's got another centre back in. I think he's done really, really well. I think if you talk about the personalities he's brought in as well, like, they're all guys that are going to go out there and play and give it their absolute all for Antonio Conte. And that's, for me, what a Conte signing is, if that makes sense, He's a guy, they're guys that he knows he can get the absolute best out of. And I think, I think that's unfair, Mark, to say that they didn't blow him away, if I'm honest.
Yeah, because I think if I'm right, from an Arsenal point of view, they wanted Basuma, didn't they? And they were quite disappointed when he had gone to Spurs. Basuma
I'd say there was way more than just Arsenal and Spurs that wanted Basuma.
Yeah, but particularly if you remember the backlash off it, it was a lot of Arsenal fans that came out absolutely kind of devastated that Basuma had gone to Spurs, and I think it was a combination of, one, not getting that player who was a really, really good player, but also not getting him and losing him to kind of your rivals as well.
Well, not getting
was
him
a bit of a
and knowing, he's going to be battling against you this season and thinking, well, what we got in, is it going to be as good as what they've just gotten in? Possibly not. Like,
yeah. Morris is back on. I think he's agreeing with us. It's a combination of the manager and the squad. I think that's where I'm coming from. He's putting in some nice pieces there, all right. Paul, one for the boys in the chat anyway. Let's talk about Arsenal for a minute. Paul Merson came out, one of my friends, of course. Paul Merson has told his old side to target Lazio midfielder Milinkovic-Savic ahead of Leicester City's Yuri Tielemans. What you thinking on that, Darren? And then the boys, I'm sure they'll come in with their ideas of what they think of it. Are you going for Milinkovic-Savic over Yuri Tielemans?
Not for me. No, not for me, I have to say. I think the boy Tielemans is a great footballer. And he's a really, really good footballer. I think he does it in the league already. I think that's huge. I think there's an element of risk. There's an element of risk with everybody. I think there's a much bigger element of risk when you bring a midfielder, let's say, from Italy, where we know the pace of play is slower and where it's not as physical as it is in the Premier League. A la one Paul Pogba, who's now taken his ball and gotten back on his plane to Turin because it's easier to play with it over there than it is in Manchester.
Yeah, that's Mark is back in the comments. For legal reasons, I won't go into detail, but we will take him now in a heartbeat. I'd say for legal reasons that you won't go into detail, I'd say you would take both of them in a heartbeat. that would be that would be my thoughts on it as well, Mark. What else? Anything else out there that sort of crossed your bow or anything like that? I've kind of gone through most of what I had on the list. Mark's back 100%. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think there's a well, there's Morris with a good point there. Look, Morris has just come in and he's hit us up where Arsenal need a strong defensive midfielder. They were in need of a central midfielder. I think their need got a lot stronger in the last week or so with what's come out, maybe. I think that defensive midfield position is a very, very difficult position to fill. I know the boy Sangare from PSV Eindhoven. It was heavily linked with Chelsea, United, and with Leicester, and it looks like at the minute he's certainly not going to be coming to United. I don't think he's going to be going to Leicester. So maybe Arsenal might be able to get involved in that kind of a deal, because I know he's a good footballer, that kid.
Mark back at the comments, who keeps his hands to himself, and then he goes, sorry, I couldn't help myself. Let's quickly talk about, you briefly mentioned it there, Neco Williams getting the move away from Liverpool, 17.5 million. I have to say, I think there's a 15% sell-on clause as well that Liverpool have put in there as well. I think it's a great bit of business. I think it's great for the player because he's going to be playing. But I also think it's fantastic for both clubs because Nottingham Forest are getting a real good player. I would have thought he would have been nailed on to go to Fulham after the season he had with them last season.
Yeah.
But I think they were pitching him at about 11. And after the impression he left there, I don't think Liverpool were going to buy that at all. So 17.5 million off the Nottingham Forest. I think he'll do really well there as well.
I think the kid's a great footballer, if I'm honest. A great footballer. Like I just think if you're him and you've got Trent ahead of you, you're like, of all the people, do you know what I mean? Especially when he brings a lot of stuff that Trent would bring. Like, he's extremely athletic getting up and down that wing. And his delivery is excellent. So he was probably thinking to himself, I'm in with a spin here. And then you've got Trent ahead and you're like, maybe I'm not. But I thought 17.5 was a great price. And actually, when I saw the finer details and I saw that it was 17.5 with a 15% sell-on clause, I kind of thought, Liverpool have done well again there, haven't they?
Yeah, Julian Ward has taken over exactly where Michael Edwards left off. Really.
Yeah, I thought to myself, do you know what? He's done all right there. He really has.
Yeah. Morris back on. He says, "I take Scott McTominay at Arsenal." I don't think Darren. From speaking to Darren, I don't think Darren would let you have him.
I want to know, and here's a question, and only Morris will be able to answer this. I don't know, has Morris been reading the thread in the United forum today? Because there was more chat about Mr. Scott McTominay, I just can't get over United fans wanting to shit in a guy like this,
Give us the gist of what they're saying. Do they want him? Do they want him gone?
Not
Is that
good
where
enough.
it's coming from?
Not good enough. Max Sauce, as he's called, he's not good enough. He's not a United player. Him and Fred need to be gone. This Keith Maguire as captain is absolute bullshit. We're going to be in the same boat as last year. We have a member of our United forum who tipped United to be bottom half of the table last season, and this season tips us to be in a relegation fight.
Jesus.
I say to you, stop with the negativity, stop with the narrative, and stop shitting on our own players. And I also, and this really, I don't hate Morris. I don't hate him at all. I think the kid's got an awful lot of attributes to be a really, really good midfielder. I think he's played in one of the worst United teams of the last 40 years. So he hasn't had it easy. He hasn't had quality around him. I don't think he's had quality management behind him. I think this season could be a breakout season for Scott McTominay, even at the age of 25, because I think with somebody behind you like Eric Ten Hag, who is he's very specific in the role he wants you to play, and he's going to make it very, very simple of what he wants you to do. I think the message is going to get into Scott very, very easily. I think Scott's in great condition. I think Scott gets around the pitch very well. I think his work rate is good. I think he's got an eye for goal. I think he can pick a pass. I really, really like the kid. But on the other thing, and this was something that grated on me earlier on when I was on the United forum, and I said, listen, we got to stop shitting in our own. I said, and plus, he's a kid that goes out and gives it his all every week. I said, he's not some foreign import that we've paid 50 or 60 million for. And the other member of the forum told me, well, whether we've paid 60 million or not, or whether we brought him through our academy, If he's not good enough, he needs to go. Now, that for me is mental. If you've paid 60 million for a player, your expectations are going to be way higher than a kid that's come through your academy. That's a no-brainer. And if you're expecting the same from, an academy player as you are a 50 or 60 million pound signing, stop watching football, take up cricket, because you have no clue what you're talking about. All right. And yes, he mentioned, but we've had players that have been good at both. Of course we have. But your chances are way heightened when you go and spend 60 or 70 million on the finished product, as opposed to bringing a guy in and introducing to a squad where it may or may not work. And we know with a lot of the top clubs, the likes of Liverpool, the likes of Chelsea, the likes of United, players that don't necessarily work out at those clubs don't tend to flop completely. A lot of them come back up the football and chain. You look at the likes of a Broja and a Conor Gallagher that can't get into a Chelsea squad. We don't know if they'll get in there. There's the boy Mark Gahey, left Chelsea last season, went to Crystal Palace, has done nothing but good for himself, got himself an international call-up, and will probably head off somewhere in the next 2 or 3 years for 40 to 50 million. It's all about patience with these guys. These guys coming through the academy have the attributes. Sometimes they need game time. And the problem with the bigger clubs is they can't give them the game time they need, because they want to be challenging for all these trophies. There's no margin for error. So they let them go. They put the sell-on clause, or they put the buyback clause in. City are doing it left, right, and centre. The boy Levy has just left City to go to Southampton. They've put in the buyback clause on him. They think he's going to be a serious footballer, and if they do, they want him back at City. But they can't stagnate his development either.
Yeah. Morris on there, another upgrade on Xhaka, like every midfielder you mentioned. Poor hate for Xhaka and all. Mark is in as well, and Mark says, and somehow seems to dodge a yellow card every game. This is McTominay, is it? Yeah, he kind of reminds me, Darren.
He is dirty. He is dirty.
Yeah,
Yeah, he really is. And again, for me, something I like about the kid, that he doesn't mind getting his foot in and getting a bit nasty. And what he does, he kicks him, and as soon as he kicks him, tries to help him up and go, sorry about that, ref. He's clever, but he is dirty.
Yeah.
I like it.
He kind of has that cheeky Milner effect, doesn't he? That when he fouls you and the ref's just about to do something, he turns and kind of smiles and goes, sorry, ref, kind of thing. Milner gets away with it all the time. He's made a career out of it, hasn't he? Like, and it's weird. You see it with Milner as well. But yeah, good point, Mark. Yeah, I like that one. Guess he was in the chat. The man himself, Dino. Excellent as always, boys. Just in from work. Hope you will have me on soon. You're welcome to come on anytime, pal. Just let us know.
Anytime, Dino.
The
There's
link
always
is
a
in
chair
the
for you in the
description.
upper tier, pal.
The link is in the description. Here we go. He's back again. Noilish, do you think Liverpool are done, or are we working on a midfielder on the sly? I was listening to Klopp today in his press conference. He was asked about a midfielder, and he made the point that we have Harvey Elliott back, who in the first 4 or 5 games, I think he said last season, did really, really well and was playing really, really well till he got that bad injury. And he's going to be back, and he's going to feel like a new signing. And he also mentioned as well that we had brought in the boy Carvalho as well. And it sounded like he didn't necessarily want to maybe stunt their progress by bringing in a midfielder. I think everyone on the podcast knows at this stage my ideas. If I think we should bring in another midfielder, I would be concerned about Keita. I would be concerned about Milner going in. As much as I love him as a backup, it's fine and stuff like that. I would be a little bit concerned about Hendo and stuff like that in terms of
Oxlade-Chamberlain as well.
Ox is one that don't, if you're mentioning Ox now and Dino's in the chat, we're going to have a real problem now, because Dino will express his feeling for Ox.
Where Liverpool are right now, Ox shouldn't be near a bench. And if you've got a guy of his age, right, and he doesn't maybe tick a lot of boxes the way Milner does. Milner could jump in right back, left back, defensive midfielder, play a little versatile. Higher, can do a lot of jobs. Very, very versatile. Ox can't. And if Ox is how old's Ox now? Is he 30?
Might be 29, I think.
He's got to be close enough. If you've got a guy of Ox's age and he's not going to be involved in a match day squad at all, other than for injuries, he needs to go. And if he does, you need to replace that. Or you need to promote from within again and let more of that youth get game time, which is what they need. Because the only games Ox is going to play is the likes of the Carabao or those FA Cup games come January or February against Shrewsbury or Sainsbury's or whoever they are.
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose the biggest problem, I suppose, is if when, and we said it before, if we lose Thiago and we lose that creativity, um, we become very one dimensional in midfield and stuff like that. Now I know Harvey gives us a little bit more because he's quite forward thinking and stuff like that. The boy Curtis Jones comes in, and again, what I've said before on Curtis Jones, I really like Curtis Jones as a player. I like his forward thinking and his aggression in going into those forward spaces and stuff like that. I just think at times he tries too hard to impress the gaffer, and I think if he just tried to concentrate on his game and impress himself more than Klopp, I think he might blossom into a slightly better player. That's all I just think
Well,
on
I
that.
like the boy Jones. I think, by the way, I've seen him a
Yeah.
few times, and I
Mm.
do like him. I know you know what I think he's trying to do, and I think this is a tough part. When you're Curtis Jones, I think sometimes doing less is more.
Yeah.
But actually doing less and doing less and being comfortable with that and going, that's all I'm going to do. I'm going to make that pass and I'm going to sit back in rather than trying to do too much, and lose it. I'm going to just make that pass. I'm going to sit back in and be confident in I've done the right thing and then just play it by there. Because I think with a lot of those younger players, when you come into a team like Liverpool, when you come into a team United, Chelsea, City, Spurs, and you get an opportunity, you want to leave that kind of indelible mark on the team. But doing that the right way and the wrong way, there can be fine lines. If I'm Thiago, I make that 5 yard pass and I slot back into that little quarterback role and I make the next 5 yard and 5 yard. Curtis Jones doesn't necessarily work like that. He goes, no, I've got to do that because I need to do that little bit more to prove that I'm worth. Whereas sometimes just less is more.
Yeah, it's like if you compare it to American football, he's like trying to be the receiver and the quarterback all in
Yeah.
one. And it gets a little bit confusing at times as to what, like, I'm not sure when I see Curtis Jones play, and I love the boy. I love his energy and his positivity
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And I like the way
I'm gonna before you
he
ask
runs
this
at the
question,
fences as well.
I'm gonna tell you the answer because I know what you're gonna say. You're gonna say you don't know what he is.
I exactly. I'm not
He's
too
a
sure
10.
what he is.
He's
Yeah,
a 10. He
yeah,
is a 10. But the tendency for Liverpool has been to not play with a natural 10.
yeah,
You know what I mean? So that makes it difficult because that means you're fitting a square peg into a round hole or vice versa. And when
yeah.
you ask guys to do jobs that maybe that don't play on their strengths, you don't get the best out of them, and then it shines a light on them. Maybe that's not the exact light you would have wanted.
Yeah. He also mentioned today the boy Tyler Morton, and he said he has switched him up. That last season at times he had to play him as a six, but he doesn't want to play him as a six. That he's training him now and coaching him to play as an eight.
As
And
an
he
eight,
says
yeah.
what he is, and he says what he has seen in training and stuff like that looks really impressive. So I'm really looking forward to seeing Tyler Morton this season as well in that eight role. That should be really encouraging. Dino's back on again, Darren. He wants to know if Ronaldo heads off. What are you looking at as a replacement potentially? So I suppose we should start first of all. Do you see Ronaldo at Man United this season?
Yes,
You do. So you think he's going to stay?
I do.
Yeah, because I heard Eric Ten Hag today speaking in his presser as well, saying that Ronaldo was in his plans.
Yeah.
And I think with Eric Ten Hag, if you listen at the way he talks and stuff like that, he's not one of those guys that's going to blow smoke out there. I think if he's saying that today, I think he truly believes it. Is that your thinking on it when you heard him speak?
Yeah, listen, like, well, all managers there's going to be a degree of lip service, isn't there? Where
Mm.
they've got to say things at times to just slow the rumor mill down or put a halt to proceedings and stuff like that. I personally think there's not a lot of places Ronnie can go, if I'm honest. Um, Not that a lot of clubs wouldn't want him, but I think from his point of view, there's not a lot of places that make sense. And I think maybe the places that make sense in his head don't make sense on the other end of the phone. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, I think he'll stay. However, I do have a kid I want to mention.
Yeah.
About and Dino might listen to me here. There was a guy, I'm going to try and pronounce his name correctly, and he went on loan to Ajax in January from Red Bull Leipzig, from RB Leipzig. He's a Dutch kid by the name of Bobby Broby, I think is his name.
Was about to bring him up, yeah, Broby.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's a funny way to spell the second. I think I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. So I decided I'd seen him linked a couple of times. So I said, I need to go and do a bit of homework here and have a little look at this kid and see what he brings. I did a little bit of digging yesterday. No, not yesterday. Saturday. And my own young Andrew was down in the house. And I says, his phone's not working at the minute. He had to send his phone back to the phone company. So he has one of those burner phones.
Yeah.
So he's got no social media. He's got nothing. He's got text and he's got phone calls. So he's missing a lot of stuff. And I said to him, have you seen the lad Broby? And he's like, no. And I said, yeah. Apparently he's available for somewhere between 12 and 15 million. And we went and we spent about 45 minutes watching bits and pieces of him playing for Ajax and for Leipzig. Kid's a smashing talent. Plays really, really well with his back to goal. Now, really, really well. He's a big, physical kid in the mold of a Lukaku. He's far more mobile. He's got a little more pace. He's got a way better touch, but he's got much better vision and awareness of what goes on around him and on how to bring others into play. Now, if you're looking at United, and we've talked about it before, the likes of a Rashford, a Sancho, and a Lange, they're the types of guys we want on the ball. A Bruno. To create that kind of fulcrum in the middle, you may need that kind of annoying who is a little bit kind of giving of himself, a little bit in the Bobby Firmino mold, where I'm going to go and be your number 9, but it doesn't matter if I score all the goals or not, because I'm going to link this together. This kid looks very, very good. They say that they think Ajax have the deal done to bring him in with Bergwijn, and they're going to maybe play himself and Bergwijn at Ajax next season. But if they don't, and if you can get any piece of this kid for between 12 and 15 million euros, this kid is going to be an absolute baller. 100%.
At that price, they should be jumping on it anyway, shouldn't they? Anyway.
Listen, if you'd have told me 40, right, I'd have gone, do you know what? It's worth to spend this kid. Got a lot about him. If you're talking 12 to 15, this is a no-brainer. Yeah, unless, as we say, the Ajax deal has already been done because he was on loan there last season and maybe the agreement was in place, come and play, score the goals, the chat was had. I think Ten Hag might be trying to just put the cat amongst the pigeons and say, that deal that was done, can we backtrack a little bit and can we get involved? But I don't know. But the boy Bobby Broby looks top drawer.
Yeah, Morris is back. He says Arsenal didn't put a boy back on Ox. Shame they didn't. Myself and Dino would nearly drive him to London. I'd say he frustrated us so much last season. We were
drive him or piggyback him.
I tell you, I'd accompany him on a walk if we had to. Myself and Dino nearly lost our hairline last year watching him play.
You'd walk him down with a Mickey, wouldn't you? If you thought I'd get rid of him. Let's be honest here.
Don't know whether I go that far in 2022.
Let's go.
Dano's back. He says, my boy Harvey, I'm buzzing to see this season is critical in the career of Jones. He lacks something and we thought by now he'd have made his impact. Yeah, this is a huge season for him. We're going to have a lot of games to play. This could be a breakout one. But again, I think there's a lot of focus this pre-season on coaching and stuff like that. I've been watching some of the videos and stuff like that. And Klopp is on it like something possessed at the minute. Dino also back. The only thing about Ox is that his missus is Perry Edwards. He is simply not good enough. He has, unfortunately for myself and the team, gone well past his best. Made of one-ply tissue. Enough said. Yeah. This is a man, Ox now. This is a man who nearly forced Dino to walk out during the game. Dino got so frustrated he couldn't even watch the game anymore. He had to go off and get himself a point and come back and stuff like that. It was so bad. Let's finish out then.
I tell you what, if he struggled to watch his games at Anfield, he should come to Old Trafford and have a fucking try.
Yeah, but I think the Brighton game is the one that triggers me. He was so bad. We threw the game away. Like, it's so
Yeah, but
frustrating.
listen, don't forget, like we got absolutely pumped by like teams getting rattled. Watford absolutely rattled us. Like,
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? We had
yeah,
to endure 5-0 at Liverpool, 1-0 at bleeding Atletico. You know, we were beaten by fucking this, that, and a brand new hat. Everyone had to go away of us last season. And that
yeah,
was tough.
yeah. Let's finish up at two for you two for United.
Yeah,
Lissandro Martinez.
yeah.
Um, they seem to be ratcheting up the price somewhat, and also the boy Anthony has gone from being a reasonable signing in the window to being serious money. What you thinking on both? I think the Lissandro Martinez one, I think you'll get over the line. But I think you're probably going to have to pay for it. The Anthony one, I think Ajax are kind of playing around now and they're beginning to price some players out of the window because they probably feel with a new manager going in, they have to give them something to work with.
Like, here's the thing about Ajax. They're shipping an awful lot out, but they're
Mm,
getting good money in for it. You know, and we know the level of Dutch football. You can go in, like, if they sell, you know, a Sebastian Haller, let's say, to Borussia Dortmund for 35 to 40 million, which is what they just did, and they replace him with a Bobby Broby for 12 to 15. They're still 20 to 25 in Clover. They go out, they sell an Anthony for 50 to 60. They pick up someone else for 15 to 20. They've done a 30 million pound deal for Bergwan. You know, they're picking up the boy Owen Wendell from PSV Eindhoven, who's going to replace Nicholas Tagliafico when he heads. You know, so they're doing a lot of shuffling of the deck. And yeah, there's a lot of pieces of the puzzle in Ajax to be put back together again. They're still looking at probably keeping the boy Yuri and Timber, probably keeping the boy Anthony, and still getting money out the door and giving, you know, the manager what he wants to go and replenish that squad. You know, I
yeah,
don't think we'll end up anywhere near the kid Anthony, if I'm honest. I
yeah,
don't think we'll go near him. I think we've enough kind of players of that ilk, you know, a Martial as well. You've got to throw into the mix, a Rashford, an Elanga, a Sancho. They're all those kind of wide forward positions filled. We've got Ronaldo through the middle. If I think we'll make another signing in the offensive side of the ball, I think it'll be a more of a nine like the boy Broby. But if not, I think it'll just be Martinez and a keeper after De Jong and Ericsson. I said at the start of this window I thought we'd get six. I'm still very comfortable with six. I think we've got Malacia. I think we'll get De Jong and Ericsson. I think we'll get Martinez. I think we'll get a keeper. And I'd like to see another attacker that can score goals through the centre. And that's six. And I'd be delighted with six and let Ten Hag come in and coach what we have.
yeah. I was looking at some of the United posts today, and some of the fans were complaining at the idea of counting a backup keeper coming in as part of the signings and stuff like that. They were playing it down, going again, like, why are we even worrying about this? Why is this part of it and stuff like that? And I mean, of course, you have to have a backup keeper, don't you? Like, you can't not have one. Good point by Dino there. Yeah, he's agreeing with you there on that boy.
Yeah,
Um,
looks
Very
very
promising,
good.
and yeah. And I tell you, if he's at that price, you shouldn't even be thinking about it. You should be just moving on it.
12 to
Just get it.
15. That's the only thing I think, you know, is we might have gotten to the party a little bit late because obviously he went on loan at Ajax and the deal might have been you come here, if you hit a certain amount of targets, you know, goals or games, we'll make the deal permanent. So there might not be a deal to be had for anyone else. But if the deal, if you can get involved in it anyway, get involved in it because kid's going to be a smashing footballer.
Certainly, it's one worth having a telephone conversation about, isn't it? That's for sure. But
Call our
listen,
friend Edwin van der Sar. Edwin, listen, what would it take for you to relinquish your interest in the guy Broby? You know, could we send you someone on loan for the season? And would you say, listen, would you tell Leipzig then we're not interested anymore, and then United can nip in? Who knows?
interesting. Well, listen, it's been a pleasure having you on again. This has been our Monday transfer show, as always, live. Thanks to everyone in the comments and in the chat who came in. Big
Absolutely.
shout out to Dino. Dino, hit me up if you want to come on anytime. The links are there if you're available. Just let me know. I'll just remind our viewers again, the Bionic Biker as well, up there, that episode on the network on the upper tier. Go up and have a look at it. It's well worth a watch. And also just to reiterate, this man is on Wednesday night. It's going to be some crack with him. He's a great personality and stuff like that. I've seen him on Morris's show. He's just a real down to earth, good kind of dude who just likes his football and like us all, likes his food and his few beers and all that kind of stuff. So it's going to be a pleasure having him on to have a chat about it. Darren, you'll enjoy it. He's big into goalkeeping and goalkeeping coaching and stuff like that. So I'm going to pick his brain on that, see what he thinks. What are the key things in terms of goalkeeping? Morris had him on, said he's a great lad. Morris put me in touch with him as well, so it was great to. It was great from that point of view. It's great having Morris on. Also, don't forget, our fantasy football show is up there as well. Fantasy Chancer. Morris is heading that up. So if you haven't already, the links are in the description. In terms of joining the league and stuff like that prior to the season starting. Dino was saying to Morris the other day he was probably going to come on for a few of the shows as well. Dino's kind of a fantasy football expert like yourself, Darren. So I'm sure both of you guys will be on with Morris on that show and stuff like that. Giving out.
Yeah, I might try and hit Morris up this week and see if he wants me to unveil my team and maybe go through some of my choices like he did with himself last week. You know.
That's the risk with this thing. The risk with this thing is that yourself and Dino come on and you give away you give away too much secrets. Good advice, and you're giving away your secrets and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
And then the challenge then is laid down. But certainly yourself and Dino generally do be going head to head on the fantasy along with the boys. But yeah, Morris will hit you up on that and stuff like that, and he'll send me on the episode and all that. So pretty cool. So until next time, if you want to contact the show, we're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. You'll also get us if you want to email us, the uppertierpodcast@gmail.com. And we're also audio versions of the show you will find out there on Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Amazon Music. A pleasure, as always, my friend, to share the Monday evening with you live. Thank you to everyone in the comments and in the chat. Before you leave, if you could drop a subscribe, and a like on the video and stuff like that, we would really appreciate it. It's really, really important to keep the channel growing. And we will be back again on Thursday for some Thursday Tier Talk. Till next time, my friend. Pleasure.
Thanks, pal.